when it comes to your women employees, what's the most common challenge that you come across that they face, and what's been your advice to them?
The most common challenge is at the different life stages that they are. One is marriage, very often leads to relocation, so break in career. The second one, which is a very big one, is maternity. To say that, I want to take this break, and then being torn between taking care of the child and delivering in office. Even when you come into office, your heart is in the house, and when you're home, your mind is in office. So just balancing that whole challenge. So I think this is the biggest gap that we see. And sometimes they do feel that they don't have an even playing field on the table. So very often, because the ratios are not very great, so there could be one woman like me and many more men in the room. So, just that whole, do I have a voice on the table? My advice to them is just bring yourself. What you know, talk about it. Because you have the mind up there, that's all you need to show. And when it comes down to taking a break and, having to move around, it is a fact of life. Decide which partner's career is important at that point of time, and decide whether you will be taking a break right now and will your spouse take a break later. Maternity is the tough one over here, and we've seen attrition at that level really go up. So we've come up with very inclusive policies, right from a Mothers on Board program, where we say, from counseling the mother who's going to go away on maternity, to say it's okay, it is a life stage that you're going into, and we are here for you when you come back, being in touch with them for the 6 months that they're away. Also, when they're coming back, we realize that there's a creche facility as per the law, but very often women do not want to put their kids in the creche. So we've come up with a nanny allowance to say, you keep a nanny if you don't want to use the creche, but come back to work. We will make it happen. So whether you want to keep a nanny for the child or for your mother-in-law, your mother who's taking care of your child, your call, we give you an allowance every month, up to 6 years of the child, no cap on the number of children you have. Besides that, so we make it easy for them to come back and not take that decision. And we also have got a cohort of women who come back in batches together, so they become each other's support system. So that's my advice, is leverage all this. It will work for you. And flexible working is something that we offer on the plate to them.
Right. Balachandar, I would also like to ask you about what the government can do in terms of changing the mindset. And I'll again go back to the OECD report when it came to digital divide. And they've said that in rural India, almost 72% of the women don't have access to a smartphone. So now this is something which is really disheartening. How do we bridge this divide? How do we allow women entrepreneurs, women in the workforce to flourish? And what role can the government play in changing the mindset?
So I can speak from what happens in Pochampalli. Pochampalli is about an hour and 15 minutes from Hosur. Yeah? People keep asking me, where's your factory? It's about 2 hours from Hosur, in the interior of Tamil Nadu. And when we set out to build a factory there, there was hardly anything around. And today it's a vibrant town. I will not be surprised in the 5 years ahead, it'll become a city. Every girl child, or rather, I shouldn't say girl child, every woman employee that we have are very achievement-oriented and aspirational. And many of them carry a smartphone, right? I think at one level, it's the affordability. And we did not go with minimum wages for them. We said we'll do better than minimum wages. And you must see how active they are in various groups internally on the smartphone. And one I would solve for is affordability. The second I would solve for, if you asked me the question, if you were the government, what would you do? I think one of the things to do is to upgrade our education system in the rural environment, ecosystem. So when we were setting out to hire these 1,600 women, we met 5,000 of them before we got this 1,600, right? So we had to work with polytechnics, we had to work with graduate schools and colleges around, in and around 3-4 districts around Pochampalli, right? So when you enter these colleges and when you come out and go back after 3 months, 6 months, the impact that you've made because of how you've been able to influence the education system really changes that digital divide. So I think it has to start with education and followed up with affordability. I think the divide can be bridged.
Right. Education and affordability of digital technology. Nitin, if I can come to you once again. We're talking about big corporate houses, but what about MSMEs, small businesses across the country? Where are they when it comes to women representation?
Well, I think there's still some catching up to do. So if I give you like a sort of sector-wise view of this, ITES, financial services and services in general, which includes retail, the gender diversity mix there is somewhere around 30 to 35% women, and it's been trending upwards at a healthy pace. If I double down to manufacturing as a sector and consumer goods, it's probably somewhere in the early to mid-teens, and so you could probably apply a similar cut to MSMEs playing in those sectors, and the obvious question is, I mean, when you do this comparison of sort of services versus manufacturing, it's not really apple to apple. The reason I say that is because there are a number of factors at play, right? I mean, one is in a manufacturing setup, there are obviously shifts, there are safety issues, there are issues around the workplace standards, there are issues around sort of physical labor and the fact that in a lesser automated setup, there is that much more manual labor required. So it's not easy to kind of, I mean, you could easily theoretically say that, manufacturing can double and manufacturing should be 30%. Yes, I mean, I guess, everybody would want to do that in spirit. But, again, it's a journey.
Raja, I'd like to leave you. I'd like you to leave us with top 3 things that every company now needs to do as far as ensuring greater representation of women. If you can tell us in 30 seconds.
See, quickly, first of all, gender is not binary anymore, right? Gender is a spectrum today. So, in fact, we have not just white and blue-collar workers, we also have Z or Z-collared workers. They are the chatbots. There are companies which have given employee numbers to chatbots as well. So, one is we need to, first of all, think in a very broad sense to say it is not just, having gender diversity, but how can we, make the playing field more level? And I have talked to, many of my women colleagues or also others. They never want a quota. They just said, look, create the level playing field, and whoever is the meritorious in that, let them get the job, right? So we never want a women only for this role or whatever it is. So that's what they want. So companies, what they should do is create as much a level playing field as possible. Then again, create, policies. I mean, we need to sometimes go beyond our traditional mindset when we create policies. So if we do this, then I'm sure that, we will create a very wide, talent pool. Last but not the least, this is, my own personal thing, is that when you write a job description, the lesser number of bullet points you have, the, broader and much richer talent pool you will get. So these are, my thoughts.
All right, pearls of wisdom. Thank you very much, Archana, Ravi, Balachandar, Nitin, Mr. Raja, Subbaraman for joining us. Thank you so much.